Hello, this is Scott Picken. I wanted to send you a quick bonus clip. I've been watching this series called Men Who Built America, and it's a really, really good series. And I thought that I would just share with you some of the lessons that I've actually learned from reading this. So let's look here quickly. If I share my screen, and I'm a big believer from Tony Robbins and many, many others that there's no point in trying to be successful. You know, anything that you think you want to create, someone else out there has already gone out and created it. So why try and reinvent the wheel? Go and find great people and copy them. So this is the series, The Men Who Built America. Again, as I said, I would highly recommend you go and check it out. It's all about Cornelius Vanderbilt, John D. Rockefeller, Andrew Carnegie, J.P. Morgan, Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, etc., etc. And you can literally find it online. And what I did, I know I'm not very normal, but what I did is I made notes when I went through it. So I'm only going to read through to you the yellow pieces. And just some of the highlights of the notes that I took through this. So it was really interesting that, to start off with, the different people were seen as quite ruthless, and being able to stand up for themselves and to create an industry in terms of where they were. But what was interesting is that innovation is something you should be doing daily. Every single day you should be looking to improve, change, and add value. Now, Vanderbilt was absolutely amazing. He had the largest shipping fleet in the world. He built it himself, and then he sold everything. So think about the risk. He was in one industry. He sold everything because he saw shipping was not the future, and he put all his money into the railroads. And then again, when the railroads got overbuilt, which they did, he then went out and secured oil, which is actually how he met John D. Rockefeller, or more importantly, John D. Rockefeller met him. And he effectively secured the next step with the oil industry. Rockefeller. So for all the people say, oh, I'm not as wealthy as Rockefeller and whatever. Well, he was nearly bankrupt, and everyone said that he should call it a day. How many of us have been in that situation? He believed that it was all about hard work and intuition. What was fascinating is that when he was making kerosene, there were many other people out there making kerosene to light the oil lamps, and he used branding. He came out with Standard Oil, and it became the safety standard. And it also says that the salesmen are the ones who always make the money, because it's about sales, marketing, and innovation. And once it became a sought-after product, the investors actually came flocking in terms of where it is. In 1873, they had the first depression in America, and again, this comes through so many times, but there's lots of opportunity in bad times. Carnegie believed that there was no reward without risk, and it was interesting. He was asked to build a bridge across the Mississippi, and no one had ever done it before. Then they only had wrought iron, and he went to all the engineers and all the architects, and they said it's impossible. And his exact wording was, nothing is impossible. And he actually he didn't invent steel, but steel was used for like swords and knives and forks, and he was like, why can't we build a bridge of steel? And on the back of that, basically all the American bridges, all the American cities, all the high-rise buildings were all built of steel. The difference between people who succeed and fail is what you do with your fear. So we've all got fear. We've all got fear of failure. But the difference between the people that succeed or fail is what you actually do with that fear. And then Carnegie was also famous for hiring experts at the things that he wasn't good at, which I think is really key. J.P. Morgan, most people think that J.P. Morgan was purely a bank, but he was very good at consolidating things. And whether people liked him or not, he got things done. He met Thomas Edison, and he saw that the electric light bulb was going to be the future and change the world. And entrepreneurs look inside to find, and then find the courage to build it and promote it. J.P. Morgan literally invests everything in electricity. So again, another massive risk. Are you noticing? Risk, but believing in what they did. And then it said transformative inventions and entrepreneurial impact start small, and no one understands or notices. They take time, and then they break through. Impact is far broader than anyone can imagine. And to do that, you need to believe in an idea, and you need to stick with it, because the road is going to be tough. So this is all about transformative inventions in terms of where we are. And then you've got Lord Rothschild. Many of you have heard this before, but Lord Rothschild said the best time to buy is when there's blood on the streets. And thanks very much. And we've heard it from Warren Buffett. When others are scared, it's a good time, and when they're not scared, then you should be scared. I can't remember the exact thing. And then entrepreneurs want to fundamentally impact lives. I mean, why am I doing this? It's free. But I fundamentally want to impact your life, and I want to share with you. Donald Trump says, which is quite interesting coming from him, you don't have to be ruthless, you have to be smart to get successful. And then JP Morgan also said, destiny is not a matter of chance, it's a matter of choice. Fascinating, eh? Your destiny is not a matter of chance, it's a matter of choice. Henry Ford came along, and sorry, just before we get to Henry Ford, what was also interesting with JP Morgan is that he wanted to buy out Andrew Carnegie. He realized that if he could put steel and electricity together, plus the railroads, plus mining, he would build a real big conglomerate. And so he went to Andrew Carnegie and he said, name your price. And it was like $450 million, which was like 300 billion. It was like 3 or 4 times more than the wealthiest person today. And Andrew Carnegie didn't want to sell, but he wanted to be wealthier than Rockefeller. His aim was to be the #1 wealthiest person in America, or the world, I think. That doesn't matter. And so that's what the number was based on. It wasn't based on the value of the business or the turnover of the business. And everyone told JP Morgan he was absolutely crazy. And JP Morgan gave Carnegie what he wants. Without even arguing, he signed the deal and gave him the money. And today, General Electric is, well, it was certainly the most successful company of the 20th century. And you know, you've also got JP Morgan Bank and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, often people get caught up in the short term and what's the risk and what's the opportunity in the short term. But what's the bigger picture? And sometimes give people what they want so that you can actually get the bigger picture. Henry Ford came along and he priced the first car for the common man. Before Ford came along, all the cars were luxury items. They were actually driven by drivers, a bit like a horse and carriage. And what he also said is people react to failures in one of 2 ways. They either get scared and give up, or they use it as a learning experience and redouble down on their efforts. And what was fascinating with Ford is that he had to take on the existing guard. He challenged them to a race, which he won. And then actually they had a monopoly over the car industry. And he just openly defied them and said, I am not building cars for the wealthy. I'm building cars for everybody. And I'm going to break the rules and I'm going to keep going. And, you know, today, Ford's dreams become a reality of putting cars in, you know, basically belonging to everyone. 80% of all transportation in America is done by trucks and, you know, cars, etc. And I mean, really, he had an instrumental impact on building out the cities, the middle class of the 20th century, not just in America, but all over the world. And his whole mission was to try to bring it to the people. And then to finish off, which I loved, was Andrew Carnegie said, how big do you want to dream and how hard do you want to work? And so the question for you is, if you've got some big dreams, you know, my dad taught me, dream big, my son. People become what they dream. He also said that whatever you believe, you can achieve. Whatever you can put your mind to, you can make happen. And so the question I got for you is, how big do you want to dream and how hard are you prepared to work for it? And like we've seen, you know, these men and many women as well have taken tremendous risk. There's a great little article here which I'll just go to quickly, and it's by Forbes magazine on the same documentary, and I'll put this all in the thing. But if you look here, the bigger the risk, the bigger the reward. So that's the #1 lesson. Just this is irritating. Bloody adverts. Get the right. Sorry, it's jumping around. There are no rules. So this is one that I find interesting. You know, everyone always tells me these are the rules. This is what happened. I teach my son there are no rules. Rules are for other people. I believe in the laws of nature. I don't believe in man's rules because, you know, the people that made the rules said the world was flat. They said we couldn't fly. They said we couldn't go to the moon. They said women and Africans couldn't vote. Who says the rules are right? Get the right people on the bus. I think that's really, really critical. Money is a good way to keep score, but it doesn't buy true happiness. And if you want to get rich, come up with something the whole world needs. So that is Scott Picken signing out from this little, I don't know what you want to call it, little value add if you want to, on the lessons that I learned from Men Who Build America. And if you want to click below, I don't think the formatting will be great. It is what it is. I'll post my notes into the YouTube clip so that you can enjoy them. Hope you enjoyed it. And if it is something of value to you, sign up to the weekly Wealth Insights. We bring them out every Friday where I, you know, having done this for 20 odd years now, bring you the best lessons I can learn from all the wealthy people around the world and share them with you. And why do we do it? Well, we want to empower 1 billion people. We want to solve the wealth gap. We believe it's a purposeful intent that should happen, and we can only do it with your help. It's going to it's about empowering the 99%, giving them access to the knowledge, the belief, and then ultimately giving them access to being able to participate and invest, allowing the 99% to invest like the top 1%. But it all starts with the brain and the belief. And so I leave you again with that thought from Andrew Carnegie. How big do you want to dream? And how hard are you prepared to work to make it happen? Cheers.